What's happening YouTube? My name is Alex and this is the new Xiaomi Mi Note 2. So this is one of the latest flagship devices from Xiaomi, and this time around we don't get a cheap phone. This is an expensive premium phone. This phone costs about $600. So what do we get for that $600? Well, first of all, we get one of the most beautiful looking phones for 2016, at least in my opinion. We get some nice 5.7 OLED display with curved edges, and we also get some top specs. So we have the Snapdragon 821, we have 4 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of internal storage. You can actually get this phone with 6 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of internal storage. So yeah, that's a lot of RAM and storage. And with those specs, you'd expect some really good results for the Antutu benchmark. And of course, we get some really awesome results for the Antutu benchmark and for the Geekbench 4. But this is quite normal for the Snapdragon 821 and that amount of RAM. Let's start to the back of the phone. So this is one of the shiniest phones that I've seen, and if you have the back clean, you can actually use it as a mirror. It's that shiny. So the back, it's made out of this ceramic material that doesn't get scratched. I mean, you can try to scratch it as much as you want and it's not gonna get scratched. We also get a 22.5 megapixel camera and a dual tone flash. And all the way at the bottom we are gonna see the Mi logo. Originally I thought that the frame of the phone it's made out of metal, but I don't think it's made out of metal anymore. I tried to scratch it on a couple of occasions, but I wasn't actually able to scratch it. So I do believe that the frame of the phone is also made out of ceramic. So on the right hand side we have the power button and the volume keys, and I'm not sure what these are made out of. They do seem like they are made out of metal, but again they could be made out of ceramic, and these buttons don't get scratched either. On top of the device, we are going to find the 3.5mm audio jack, we're going to find the microphone and the IR blaster. So I'm very happy to see that we have an IR blaster on this device, and I did try it a couple of times and it does work really good. And on the other side of the frame, we're going to find the SIM card slot. So this phone takes two SIM cards, two nano SIM cards. However, you cannot install an SD card. So if you get this phone with 64 gigs of internal storage, that's going to be the storage that you're going to have. There is no expandable storage. All the way at the bottom, we are going to find what looks to be like two speakers. However, only one of them is a speaker, the other one is actually a microphone. We also have a USB-C right there, and this phone supports quick charging, so you can charge the entire phone from 0 to 100 in about an hour and a half. The phone also supports OTG, so you can basically plug in any USB stick to the phone and the phone will be able to read whatever you have on that USB stick. The speaker that we get to this phone, it's loud, and it's probably one of the loudest that I heard in quite some time. So much louder than my Google Pixel XL, for example. And here is a sample of how the speaker sounds. And on the front, it's where the magic happens. So this is why this phone looks so good, because of those curved edges on the screen. So we have a 5.7-inch OLED display with curved edges. However, unlike Samsung devices, we can't actually do anything with those curved edges. You know how you have that edge option with the Samsung devices? With this phone, we don't actually have any options for those curved edges. So it just looks cool. Well, aside from that, we have some type of scratch resistant glass, so the phone is not gonna get scratched. We also get really good brightness, so you can still use the phone outside. It's not the absolute brightest phone that I've seen for the outside. However, it is brighter than a lot of other phones. What was a bit disappointing was the screen resolution. So we only get a 1080p resolution with this screen. For some it may be okay, for some it may not. Me personally, I don't really find a big difference between the 1080p display and a 2K display. Sure, there is some difference when you're like reading and stuff like that, but for the most part, 1080p display is still good for 2016. And aside from that gorgeous curved screen, we also have a notification light that can change colors, and we have a front-facing camera. So we have an 8 megapixel sensor with the f2.0 aperture, and I have to say that it is very quick to take pictures with this front-facing camera. Now for quality, if you do take pictures in broad daylight, the pictures do turn out pretty good, and this is an example of a picture that I took in broad daylight. However, if you do take pictures at nighttime, the pictures will turn out a bit grainy, but we've seen this for a lot of cameras, even from rear cameras from smartphones. So overall, for a front-facing camera for selfies and some video calling, it's a great front-facing camera. And all the way at the bottom, we are going to find the three buttons. So we have the multitasking button, we have the home button, and the return key. Now you can change where the return key and the multitasking button are sitting, so you can move them around. So it really depends how you like using your phone. That home button also has a very interesting feature, so you can select that from the settings. So you can just touch the button once and it acts as a home button, so you don't actually have to press it all the way. But it really depends what phone you're coming from, because if you're coming from a Samsung device, you may be used to actually pushing in that button all the way. Me personally, I just like touching the button and it becomes a home button. So it's a really cool feature that I found, and I've seen that on Meizu devices in the past. Even though the phone is super slim, we have a 4070 milliamp battery inside, and I was able to get about 5 hours and a half of screen on time on that battery. Well, the battery is still at like 25%, so I could have probably got another hour easily. Keep in mind that I'm a very heavy user. I keep the brightness at maximum, I use the GPS a lot, the Bluetooth and so on. So for a lot of people, you may be actually able to get, I don't know, 7 hours, 8 hours of screen on time. But overall, the battery in this phone is just amazing. And there is also a fingerprint scanner in that home button, and I found that the fingerprint scanner works 100% of the time. So I don't see that too often, but I haven't had a single time when the fingerprint scanner didn't work. So very, very quick, very accurate, and I'm very happy to see that this is actually better than a lot of Samsung devices. The Mi Note 2 is using Android 6.0.1, and I'm not sure when or if this will be updated to Android 7, because Xiaomi devices always take a long time to actually update devices. So on top of that Android 6.0.1, we get Xiaomi's own skin called MIUI 8, and me personally, I don't like that skin that much. The settings app looks a bit more complicated than your regular Android device. However, if you're coming from an Android device, it shouldn't take you that long to actually figure it out. We do have some cool features like double tap to wake up. We have another feature that I found very useful. Whenever you're copying and pasting something, it gives you like an option with the most frequent things that you paste in text. So that's very good for productivity, because me personally, I send a lot of email, I receive a lot of emails, and I can just copy paste something that I send for everyone. Thanks for contacting me, blah blah blah. So I found some very useful features that I've never actually seen for any other device before. The RAM management, it's also improved over past Xiaomi devices, because as you probably know, Xiaomi devices tend to close all the apps running in the background very quickly, and that's a bit disappointing if you have like 4, 5, 6 gigs of RAM. So with this phone, it's a bit better than before, but if you do want to keep an app running in the background, make sure that you actually lock it in the background so it doesn't get closed. Because sometimes the phone would just close all the apps randomly and you don't get any more notifications or anything like that. So that is a bit disappointing to see. I wish they would implement that slightly better. And if you're like me and you can't stand that skin that they have running on top of Android, you can always install Nova Launcher and make your phone look like any other Android device. So I did do that for the past 2 days that I've been using the phone. And yeah, I do love the phone much better now. On the back of the phone, we have a 22.56 megapixel sensor with the f2.0 aperture. And I have to say that in the right conditions, we can take some really good looking pictures with this camera. The camera app looks like the camera app that we've seen on lots of Xiaomi devices in the past. So we have a lot of settings, a lot of options, we have a lot of modes, so you can take pictures in manual mode, we have an HDR mode, but it doesn't matter what mode you're using or how you're taking pictures, the camera app is extremely quick. So as soon as you press that button, it will take a picture, no matter if it's a lot of light or low light, wherever you're taking the picture. So yeah, the camera app is extremely quick. The pictures that you're looking at are all taken with this camera. They're not edited in any way, and they're all taken on auto mode, so I didn't actually change any settings on the camera. I found that pictures taken in good light turn out really good, so we have some really good pictures in there. but the pictures taken in low light conditions are a bit too grainy for my taste. So it is a bit difficult to focus in low light conditions, which is disappointing because this is an expensive phone and they put all that work into it, and the camera is okay, but it's not the absolute best. Personally, I don't take a lot of pictures in low light, but every now and then you do have to take a picture in low light. And yeah, it's a shame that they didn't include a better camera with this device. As you'd expect from any flagship device, using any app works without any issues whatsoever. So if you're using the browser, you can zoom, scroll, do anything that you want, and it's done extremely fast. The YouTube app also works really good, but the maximum resolution is going to be 1080p, which is basically the maximum resolution of the screen. For gaming, the same thing. You can play basically any game that you're gonna find in the Google Play Store without any issues whatsoever. And I'm actually gonna make a gaming test video, and you're gonna be able to find the link for that video in the video's description or the top right corner. I was a bit concerned when I got this phone, thinking that it will not connect to 4G networks like a lot of Chinese devices. However, since I got the phone and since I've been using it, it's only been connected to 4G, so I haven't actually seen the phone connected to 3G, not even once. So I'm very happy to see that 4G is kind of supported here in Canada. And here in Canada, I'm actually on Rogers or Fido. It's the same thing really. Now we also have dual band Wi-Fi, and the speeds that I got on the 5 GHz Wi-Fi network and on the 4G network are amazing. So these are probably the fastest speeds that I've seen in a smartphone in quite some time. Another important feature for any smartphone these days is the GPS inside. So I found that the GPS inside the Xiaomi Mi Note 2 works really good. So for the GPS testing app, as soon as you actually open the app, it will connect the satellite. So it takes a couple of seconds. It's even faster if you're outside. And using Google Maps also works extremely good. As you'd probably expect, we have a lot of sensors as well in this phone because it's a flagship phone, and all the sensors that we have included with this phone work really good without any issues whatsoever. And it's time to conclude this video. So I have to say that I'm in love with this phone, and I will actually be using this phone instead of my Google Pixel XL from now on. I love the big 5.7-inch screen, I love the battery life on this phone, and the only downside that I see to this phone is the RAM management. And I wish they would do something so the phone actually keeps all the apps running in the background all the time. Because I don't really care if I lose a bit of battery life over all the apps running in the background. So that's the only downside that I've seen to this phone. Sure, the camera it's not as good as the camera that you'd find on the Google Pixel XL, mostly for low light conditions. However, me personally, I don't really take any pictures in low light conditions. I probably take 3 pictures a year that are at nighttime. So overall, I do love this phone, and for $600 we do get a lot more than we would get from I don't know, Samsung or an iPhone or something like that for $600. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did like it, press that like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.